Welcome back to the channel. Don't forget to subscribe and give us a huge thumbs up if you like this tutorial, and press the notification bell to get notified with every video. These are the materials we're gonna need. We need two types of yarns. I'm gonna use my ruler to know which hooks I should use, scissors, googly eyes, and the pistol needle. Well, here as usual, I like to measure my yarn to make sure which hook I should use, since many of the yarns that I have, they don't have the labels anymore. And here I can see, well, I can go between a 3.5 and a 4, whichever one I believe is going to be the best for this project. And I have chosen the 3.5 because you want this project to be slightly tight, so it's close, because we have to fill it up and make sure that is not show the filling. We're gonna start with a magic ring, and I like to make a chain when I start my magic rings to secure it. After that, we're gonna work 6 single crochets inside our magic ring, and that is going to be the top of our head for this little cute chick that we are creating today. Remember that always the tail of your magic ring needs to follow you, so you make sure like that you can close your project. And in this kind of little projects, amigurumis, you need to make sure that is closed really well. Count them once you are done. Remember, always the first one hides slightly a little bit, and your chain should not be visible by now, so you cannot get confused on where to close it. Once you reach the space that is your first stitch, just do a slip stitch, pull your tail really tight, and you're ready for the next row. For row number 2, what we're gonna do is gonna be increases. So you're gonna make 2 single crochets on every stitch that you worked before. And in small projects, I always suggest that you use a stitch marker and you put it on the first stitch that you worked. So once you come to the end, you will not get confused. In this round, it's slightly easy because you know you have to make 12 single crochets in total, and it's 2. And you can always go back and see if all your stitches that you worked on have 2 single crochets, but later on it's gonna be slightly more difficult to follow where you are and where you're going. And one thing that I like to do is bring my tail with me. As you can see, I put it underneath my stitches and I work on top of it. So like that, I make sure it's completely hidden, and I suggest you make it really tight before you do that, so you secure that the magic ring is absolutely closed and you won't open again. It's a step to assure you that you don't have to sew it afterwards. Once you have done all of your increases, there is 2 options. You can always slip stitch on the first stitch, or you can straight away start working on that one. I don't really like to do slip stitches because after you can always see what is in the beginning. I like to straight away go and start working on row number 3. Row number 3, we're gonna do 1 single crochet on the first stitch and 1 increase on the other one, and that is a repetition that you're gonna follow all the way along, which is gonna be 1 single crochet and 1 increase, which is 2 single crochets on the next stitch. Since we have started with 1 single crochet, means by the time you finished, you should finish with 2 single crochets on the last one right before your stitch marker. That's the best tip I can give you, so you know that you have done all the stitches. If you come to an end and you are meant to do 1 single crochet, means you have missed a stitch and you have placed the wrong stitches on one of the spaces previously. So just go around all your circle for row number 3 and make sure that you have all of the stitches in the correct place. This is really important because we want our project to grow equally everywhere, and we want to make sure we have all the stitches that we need in every single row, especially right now that we are doing increases, so we will have enough for our decreases. That's row number 3 finished. Now comes row number 4, and row number 4 is continue being increases, but this time you're going to make 2 single crochets in the first 2 stitches. So I have done my first single crochet. I'm moving my stitch marker to the other side, and I'm gonna do in the next one another single crochet. Then we're going to make one increase on the third stitch from the hook. That is the new pattern repetition you need to follow for row number 4. So again, it's 2 stitches on the next 2 spaces. So it's 2 single crochets in 2 stitches, 1 increase on the third one. Just remember that and then just repeat it. And in this case, since we start with the 2 single crochets on the first 2 stitches, means we are going to finish on the last one right before our stitch marker with another increase. Again, as I mentioned before, if that's not the case, if you come to the end and it's asking you for only 1 single crochet, means you have placed a wrong stitch somewhere and you have to go back and make sure that you've done it properly. As you can see here, I have 3 stitches left, so I have 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet, and on my last one is 1 increase, and that will finish row number 4, which by now you should have 24 stitches. Now we are gonna start with row number 5. As you can see here, I could see there was a little bit of the tail showing up, so I decided to cut it and move on to the row number 5. Row number 5 continue being a row of increases. So we're gonna start straight away on our stitch marker, and what we're gonna do this time, it's going to be 3 single crochets on the first 3 stitches. Move your stitch marker once more. It's really important that we move the stitch marker so we always know where is our first one, because as I mentioned previously, if you don't do that, you might get slightly confused of where you are, and since we are not doing slip stitches, you don't have a reference in there to show you where you are meant to go. So after doing 3 single crochets, you have to do another increase, and this is the pattern repetition for the full row, which again is 3 single crochets in 3 stitches and 1 increase, which that means 2 single crochets in the same space. Repeat it all the way along, and by the end of this row you should finish with 30 stitches. If it's easier for you, you can always count all of your stitches. I'm gonna repeat it. You should have 6 in the first row, 12 on the second, 18 on the third, 24 on the fourth, and 30 on the fifth row. And the way also, if you never counted rows and you don't know in which row you are, well, count from the magic ring, that's your first row, and from there you just count the stitches going up. The stitches is gonna be visible as 2 little loops in every stitch, and that means that is your stitch, and then from there you can just move up, 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 or you can count them as the marks of your stitch made, which is a little bubble in there, and that means that is your stitch. And remember, by this row you should finish again with 1 increase. Now we are in row number 5, and as you can see, we can tell where is the beginning and the end, and this is the thing that I like about not doing slip stitches. Otherwise you will build up a line and it's really obvious, and sometimes when you're doing patterns like this, you want a clean repetition so you can place your googly eyes and everything either in the front or the back. For row number 6, we are going to do 4 single crochets and 1 increase. So you're going to do 4 single crochets on the first 4 stitches, and then you're going to do 1 increase. This is a US terminology. If you're on the UK, you're doing double crochets in this case. I just wanted to mention that because I know many of you are from the UK and prefer to use the UK terminology, so we will be doing double crochets in all of our stitches. By the end of this row, you should finish with 36 stitches, and you should finish again in another increase. Because remember, we have started with our 4 single crochets on the first 4 stitches, and this is a pattern repetition every single row of 4 single crochets and 1 increase, as by row number 6. Keep doing all of your stitches, make sure you count them, and you make sure you have all of your stitches in the correct place so you don't finish in the wrong stitch and need to go back. If you have to go slightly slower than I am, just do it. Take your time. You can always pause the video, do the row at your own pace, and come back to me when you are ready to move on. Here we have reached the end of row number 6, and I'm finishing in 1 increase, and I'm ready to move to the next one. For the next rows, from row number 7 to row number 12, what you're gonna do is 1 single crochet on every stitch that you have around, which is 36 stitches. So if you were to count them as you work on them, you just need to make sure you have 36 stitches all the way around before we can move to the creases and to make this head smaller. If you were to continue doing it bigger, because you want a project slightly bigger than where I am, the only thing you will have to do is continue the next rows adding 1 single crochet on its own in the next few rows. So do as many as you want to make these heads and full body bigger. And the only thing you have to do is just add 1 more stitch. So let's say if you wanted to make it bigger, for row number 7 you actually will do 5 single crochets and 1 increase. Then row number 8 will be 6 single crochets and 1 increase, and so on until you make it the biggest that you want. And then is when you will have to do the row repetitions of only single crochets around, as that is, let's say, the middle part of our head, and that is what is going to make it bigger and longer in this case, so we can do the decreases and be able to close it down. So keep doing your rows of single crochets around. It's really easy. There's no way you can get lost in here. You just have to make sure you have all of your 36 stitches. And I'm going to see you for row number 13 when we are going to work on decreases. And as you can see also, your pattern start to curve a little bit your project. Here I am finished row number 12, and I'm ready to move on to row number 13. And row number 13 is a row of increases, which means you're going to make 4 single crochets. So as you can see, your increases is the last row of increases that you did, but rather than increases, then you do decreases. So if I mentioned before that you wanted to make it bigger, if you were to do so, you will have to follow whatever is the repetition that you did, whichever more rows you did. As I put an example, let's say you make row 8, 9, or 10 making increases, you will take that last row and that will be the first one that you do by now. To make decreases, what you have to do is you have to put 2 stitches together. And the way to put 2 stitches together, for me to don't be visible on the outside, I like to only go in the front loop. I don't take the full stitch, and I go in the front loop of both of the stitches. As you can see here, I'm taking 3 loops on my hook, then I'm yarning over and I'm passing it through the first 2 loops, and now have 2 loops on the hook, and then I yarn over and I pass it through 2. So it's slightly like a single crochet, but first you need to take 2 stitches together to make sure you make your decrease. Now you will go and take the full stitch, which is the V, and you will repeat again, doing 4 single crochets or however many stitches you have done on your last row of increases, and then you're making a decrease again. And this is the repetition you have to do all the way along, and you're gonna change from 36 stitches if you're following the pattern, this one with me, and by now, by row number 13, you should have decreased and have only 30 stitches. So count them up. You should finish with 1 decrease, because remember we have started with the 4 single crochets on the first 4 stitches, and like that we will complete our row number 13. It's a really easy pattern. It's not so difficult, and you should not get lost in where you are and where you're going, but always take your time. If I'm going too fast on the video, please stop the video, do it at your own pace, and then move on to the next row with me when you are ready. For the next row, what we have to do is again decreases. As you can see, the head has grown a lot, and right now we are only doing decreases in all of our rows so we can match what we've done at the top, and we can close it so we will have a perfect circle. This pattern is really easy. You can also use it in multiple other projects that you can do. And for row number 14, we're going to do 3 single crochets on the first 3 stitches, and then you're going to create 1 decrease. As you can see, again, row number 14 is like row number 5, but rather than increases, we're doing decreases. As well, when you reach the end, when you reach your stitch marker, you should have 1 decrease on that last stitch. If you don't, if you found yourself that you have to do 1 single crochet, that means again you have made 1 error in some stitch, so please go back and have a look at it. I know decreases are quite difficult to catch for absolute beginners, but just have a look and you will be able to see that you have put 2 stitches together. It's become kind of like a big stitch together, so that means that is your decrease, and it's really important that you make sure you are matching your pattern at the top. So make sure of that. Again, if you have made the project slightly bigger, you will just be following whatever was your second from the last increase that you make on however many stitches more you have done. So as you can see, I have 2 stitches left because I'm finishing with my decrease. And this is the completion of row number 14, and by now you should have 24 stitches worked in your project. Now we can move on to row number 15. So again, we're gonna make 1 single crochet in our stitch marker so we can move it to the first one that we are creating, so we know where is our beginning. So move your stitch marker with me and be ready for row number 15, which is going to be 2 single crochets on the first 2 stitches and 1 decrease on the next one. So if it gets really difficult, what you can do is, like me, you can always turn around your project, because I know when we are doing decreases, get slightly more difficult to move around, and you can always do this, work like it with your, it's facing you, and it's easier the pattern, so you don't have the other side of the head right in front of you. And like that, later on when you are ready to finish, you just have to turn it upside down. We're 1 row away from finishing our head, and we will be ready to move on to the next one. So 2 single crochets on every stitch, and then you work 2 stitches together to do 1 decrease. Remember, the decreases, we only take the front loop, so when we see the right side of our project, we cannot see where the decreases are. When you do decreases in the full stitch, when you see the front part of the project, you're gonna see them coming together, which means that you are taking that space. And I personally don't like how does it look. You can always test it and do it and see if you like it, and if you do, well, you're more than free to do the full stitch if that becomes slightly easier for you at the time of doing the creases. But I think it's quite easy to just take the front loop, just do it slowly, so you make sure you're taking only the front loop from both of them. By now, when you reach the end, you should have, there you go, 4 stitches left. So you're gonna do 1 single crochet, again 1 single crochet, and we're finishing with our decrease. And by the end of this row, you should have 18 stitches. And we are only 1 row away from finishing. We just have to do row number 16. And for row number 16, what you have to do is 1 single crochet on the first stitch, move your stitch marker, and after you move your stitch marker, you're gonna do 1 decrease. I'm giving you 2 alternatives here. You can always finish on row number 16, which is 1 single crochet and 1 decrease in all the stitches around, or you can do a row 17, and row 17 will be decreasing in every single stitch, and you will finish with 6 stitches. So that really matches how you started in your magic ring. It's entirely up to you. But in my case, I prefer to sew the ends. So I make sure I make it quite tight, and like that I close it properly. As well, you need to be careful because now that we are reaching the end, the project gets really small, and remember, this project has to be filled up. So for that, we need to make sure we have a space. And again, you might see a lot of patterns around projects where they keep filling up the projects as they work. I don't like to do that because I don't like the filling to be following me. Why? Because you can always trap your filling around stitches and it's going to be really visible on the outside space. That's why I don't like to do it, but you're more than free to. If you have make it bigger, obviously you have a slightly bigger head than me by now, you will be able to fill it up and then just move on. But I think you have more than space enough right now to add the filling right at the end. And when you repeat now your 1 single crochet and decrease, then you will have 12 stitches, and you should finish with 3 stitches, which means 1 single crochet on the first one and 2 together. And as you can see, that's my end here. Be really careful as well that you do not do the next stitch into the decrease space, because I know the decrease stitch previously gets slightly open and it seems like it's a non-work stitch, but that's not the case. Now that I have finished, I just turn my head around so that is finished right now. And then the only thing you have to do is add the hair and fill it up. I like to put the hair first. So what I do for the hair is I just, as you can see, in a really small space, I create like a U shape so I can see how will it look and how much hair I want to put on the top of the head of my chick. I think that is enough. So then what I do is I just cut it, and then I will be able to secure it and create the hair. To secure it, what I like to do is make sure, as you can see, I put both of the ends together, and then with the length that I found it's gonna look good on my head, then I start folding all the yarn together and I leave a slightly long loop on the bottom, so like that I can make sure that I can, as you can see right now, secure it a little bit with another yarn and then pass it through the magic ring. Be really careful by doing this and make sure that you do not make your magic ring bigger. So that's how it look. And then right now, I just like to mess it up a little bit, so it's kind of like spiky and open. And I take some yarn and I just tied it up in there to secure it and to make sure that that loop is gonna stay secure on my magic ring. That's why if you make your magic ring really tight, it should not let this group of yarns don't cross over through the magic ring to the outside of the project. You have to secure it. This type of project, mostly I made them for kids, so you need to think that children can always pull the hair and things like that, and you want to make sure it's really tight and secure, so like that it will not come off if somebody is to pull them. And one more thing we have to do before we fill it up is to put our googly eyes. You can put whichever size you prefer. I think that is up to you how you want it to look like. Then I'm ready to do the peak of the little chick. And what I'm going to do for the wig is going to be row number 1 is going to be chain 3 and turn. Then you're going to make 2 single crochets because you only have 2 stitches when you do that. After that, what I do is I turn again by chaining 1 and turn. And what I do then is I only do 1 single crochet, so I jump one that is in there and then I do another one. So I'm kind of creating the shape that I want, and there I do like a slip stitch, as you can see. So we have the shape that we want in there. You have to do this twice. We have to do a top and a bottom, and then you just have to fasten it off, do it again, sew them together, and then attach them to your head. I found it's easier to do all of this before you fill up the head, but I know a lot of people is capable of doing fill up right before they attach anything else, which will be the accessories, and you are more than free to do it. Same like right now, I'm doing the head detached from the body, but you can always continue working rows inside your project, and that way you can do one same pattern together. So you will do the head and the body. I'm gonna come really soon with another pattern. It's gonna be a bunny, and that bunny I'm gonna show you how to do it all together. Well, so now yes, once we have the hair, once we have the eyes and the beak, comes the time to fill it up. Try to make it quite tight, make it quite firm. You don't want to have a empty head, and especially the body is going to be quite bigger and heavier, so you want to make sure that you have the head big enough and thick enough so it will not be on like a wobbly head at all. Once you're happy of how does it look, you can always completely stitch it up and close it out to be one piece, or you can just attach it to the body later on. That's absolutely your choice. Here we are absolutely done, and we are ready to move to what is going to be the body. You start the same way than before. You're going to start with row 1, a magic ring of 6 single crochets, and then repeat row number 2 as we did as well before, which is going to be do 2 stitches on the same space around. So from 6 we are gonna move to 12 stitches around. The body is quite similar to the head. The only thing is slightly smaller on a way, but as well it's gonna kind of be quite heavy because you wanna make it quite firm. You wanna add a lot of filling on the body, if that makes sense, because there are more things that you need to attach in there, which is going to be the feet and the wings. So when you have a project that you need to attach to many things, like the head is with the googly eyes and the beak, you want to make sure you fill it up quite tight so it doesn't come off. That's a trick that I can give you for all the amigurumis, because I can tell you, I failed so many times doing projects like this. That's why I haven't shared them with you, because I have basically not fill up my project properly, and I found myself that it was so wobbly, and once you sew it, it's really hard to go back and undo it. So that is the reason why. Same like before, I'm not going to do any more slip stitches to connect the rows. I'm straight away gonna go and work on the next one. And for row number 3 on our body, we're gonna make 1 single crochet and 1 increase around. You're gonna repeat this 6 times, and you are going to have 18 stitches by the time you finished. When you reach the stitch marker, you should finish with 1 increase, and that should complete how is your row going to finish, because remember we have started with 1 single crochet, so on the side, to be an even number of stitches, you should have 1 increase. So when you count around and you check around, you should have 1 single crochet, 1 increase all the way around. So yes, it's really similar how we're gonna do it, except for one thing. So please don't go away yet. Don't rush the project, because row number 4 is completely different to what we've done for the body. That's why I was saying the body is gonna be slightly smaller, but it has the difference that it's gonna get a lot of bigger stitches right now. So count your stitches before you do this, because we need it for row number 4 and so on, continuing stitches. And what you're gonna do to row 4 is going to be 5 single crochets and 1 increase. So on the first 5 stitches, you're gonna do 1 single crochet on its own, and then you're gonna do 1 increase. And you're gonna repeat this 3 times. By the end of the row number 4, when you reach the end of row number 4, you should have 21 stitches around. So that's why I was saying, don't go away yet, because I have a big change of the pattern for you. Remember, as I say, is 5 single crochets and 1 increase, and you should only have to repeat this 3 times. And as well, you should finish this round, so when you reach your stitch marker, you should have 1 increase with you. That's how you should finish row number 4, and from here we're gonna do a repetition of stitches just to grow the height of our body, and then we're gonna move to the creases. This body only has 10 rows, but since we're doing a bigger change in here, you're gonna see that the shape is gonna be completely different at the head. The reason why you cannot do the same that you did on the head, otherwise you're gonna get 2 similar circles, so it's not gonna be really obvious what is the head and what is the body. What you have to do now for row number 5, 6, 7, and 8 is going to be 1 single crochet around in every stitch. So you're gonna do 1 single crochet on the next 21 stitches, and you're gonna repeat that all the way around until you reach row number 8, and that is your pattern repetition that you have to do all the way around. And then you can pause the video now, do those rows around, which again, as I mentioned, 21 stitches is really important, so we can evenly decrease at the end of row number 8 when we move to row number 9. So keep doing it. You're gonna start seeing that your pattern is growing, and what you have to do next is going to be the creases. If it gets really difficult, please do as I teach you before, turn your project inside out, and then like that you will be able to work a lot easier than have the project right in front of you. So once you have done that, comes the time to move to row number 9. In row number 9, what we are going to do is repeat the same pattern that we did on row number 4, but with the creases. So that means you have to do 5 single crochets and decrease. Once again, if you have chosen to do this pattern a lot bigger than me, you will have to match whatever it is that you've done on the head slightly, and then you're gonna do the repetitions of rows plus the decreases, and you will always just go and do the decreases matching whichever one was your last row of increases. In this case, it's gonna be quite difficult for me to tell you how many rows you will have and where your stitches will be, just because I don't know how big you did it. But please let me know in the comments if you will want me to adjust that on the pattern. There is a written pattern that is going to be available on my website, which is newmomspirit.com, and over in there, if you let me know in the comments, rather than just this pattern, I can as well adjust it and make it slightly bigger. So you know, if you want to make it higher, I will let you know straight away how many stitches you should have, but it should be quite easy. I don't suggest you to do this if you're an absolute beginner, because you might not know how to do it, but please go ahead and try. You have to try to know what you're doing all the time, and that's how you learn, because practice makes perfection, and I always say that. Well, to row number 10, and it's our last row, what you're going to do here is going to be 1 single crochet and 1 decrease around. You're going to repeat this 6 times, and you're going to end with 12 stitches. If you want to, again, rather than sew it, you prefer to finish how you started, well, you will do 1 extra row of decreases, and you are going to finish with 6 single crochets. And the way to do that will be that for row number 11, you will just have to repeat decreases on every stitch. So you will take 2 stitches for row number 11 and then just decrease, 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 and that should make you finished on decreases of a multiple of 6, and then you will just have 6 stitches left and be able to attach it. If you have decided to continue the body with the head, which was quite easy as well, I can adjust that for the pattern. Let me know in the comments if you want to as well teach you how to do all together. Then yes, I will suggest you finish on the 6 single crochets as you started, and then you just sew it to closing it down. In this case, for the body, since we don't have to do anything else, yes, you will do a slip stitch on the last stitch on the first stitch, sorry, to close. You will leave such a, I would say 5 centimeters or so of a long tail to be able to close it. And right now, the only thing you have to do is fill it up, because the body doesn't need anything else more than that. So take your filling and then just add it into the body. As I said before, try to make it quite thick and tight so it will hold the head and it won't be wobbly. As well, try to make it soft and cozy. Think that this is for either children or for people that love this type of amigurumi toys, and they like to have soft and fluffy projects. They don't like to have empty and wonky projects, okay? So keep that in mind, and once you're finished, the only thing you have to do is sew it. And then to do it, I'm showing you right now here what you have to do, and it's just going in and out on the decreases that you have made on the last row. Either if you make the 12 or the 6, it doesn't really matter. You're just gonna do it around, and then what you will do when you reach the end is just put your tail, pull it up, and then you will close that circle really easily. And that's how easy it is to close this project. You don't have to make nothing bigger as well, because the bottom is going to be visible, or maybe not, because maybe you decide to make the bottom be the top and be attached to the head. That's also another option. But if you decide to put this on the bottom, you want to make sure you have a slightly nice and tidy finish. And then what I like to do is just go a little bit around of that center and pass my yarn needle and make sure I'm securing that ring that I just created on my own. And then the only thing you have to do once you are happy with how is it look is just go around the body quite far away from this stitch and just hide your tail. And that will finish with our body and the way to start and finish a project. Now we're gonna make the wings, and the wings we're gonna start with a magic ring. You have to make 2 of them, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna do 6 single crochets again around your magic ring. So as you can see, you're repeating all the time the same way to start. The only difference is that the 2 wings have only 2 rows. So row number 1 is 6 single crochets around your magic ring. Make sure you close it quite tight and that you're ready to row number 2 and the last one for your wing. Once you have done your 6 single crochets, you're gonna go to the first one to close our circle, and you're gonna do a slip stitch, and that should secure your row number 1. Then remember to pull your tail really tight and make sure that that circle is closed. Sorry, here I was struggling a little bit for some unknown reason to get into the first stitch. Sometimes happen, especially with this type of really thin yarns, that you get them really hairy, and you can always just trap yourself in between little hairs of the yarn, and it gets quite harder. Now what we have to do only, it's gonna be 2 single crochets in every stitch around, so that means increases. You don't really need for this one the stitch marker, I think, but if you think you have to, please put it on the first stitch, just because the only thing you have to do is build up row 2 and do increases, so it's quite easy to see which one is your first stitch and which one is the one that you're working on. As mentioned in the other 2 pieces of the project that we did, bring the tail with you, so you close it down and you make sure you're securing your magic ring. Once you reach the end, then what you're going to do is going to count your 12 stitches, make sure you have them all. Then you're gonna go to the first stitch that you created, the first increase, go to the first stitch and do a slip stitch. That's the only thing you have to do, and that secures how your wings look like. Then fasten off, leave a little bit of a long tail to sew it, and that is your wing. Repeat this once more, and then we can move to do the last part of this beautiful project, which is going to be the foot, which in this case we are doing it with the orange yarn. And then you're going to start with 3 chains, a slip knot and 3 chains. Then you're gonna work 2 single crochets on the 2 stitches, starting from the second one from the hook. I like to do this on the 3rd loop of the chain. That means if you turn it around, you're gonna see a little mountain, that it is your stitch. Work 2 single crochets and fasten off. That's how easy this fit is. Remember that you have to do this twice. That's the most important part of all of this, that you do it twice to have 2 little fits. Then fasten off, you have 2 tails, and that should be enough to, 1, secure it. I like to make a knot with both of the tails together, and then you just have to sew it all parts to your body. So as you can see, it's really easy. This project is all just depends on how big or small you want to do it. Just attach the head to the body, add the wings, leave the loop from the head, and you are finished. I hope you like this gorgeous little chick project. I thought you will enjoy it in these Easter holidays, and I see you really soon on the next one. Don't forget to subscribe, like our video, and press the notification bell. See you on the next one. Bye.